We're going to give about 20 or 30 seconds for everybody to get on. Okay, welcome Panther Nation. Welcome to this Athletics Town Hall. My name is Kim Bounds. I'm the Director of Athletics. And I'm going to have the panel introduce themselves at this point.
Hi, everybody. My name is Courtney O'Clair, and I'm the Associate Athletic Director here at Plymouth State.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Kilmer. I run our athletics communications office on campus, so we're responsible for media relations for PSU Athletics, including websites, social media, and broadcasting.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Levine. I'm the Assistant Athletic Director in charge of enrollment management and alumni relations.
Hey, everyone. I'm Mark Legacy, Assistant Director of Athletics and Head Athletic Trainer.
Hi, everyone. Eric Gibbs, Assistant Athletic Trainer.
Hello, everyone. Sam Adams, Assistant Athletic Trainer as well.
Hi, I'm Darcy Hoffman. I'm the Administrative Assistant for Athletics.
Okay, we're going to have a little bit of housekeeping here before we get into the nitty-gritty, but this is a town hall strictly for athletics. So it's not like the other Plymouth State town halls. So questions that you have that aren't related to athletics, you're welcome to write them down using the chat room, but we will answer those. We definitely will answer them, but those will go to other departments if it doesn't have to do with athletics. So again, please use the chat function if you need to. We're gonna try to answer everything as I said, but we probably won't get to everything. So we are gonna have an FAQ that will be released in a day or so following this town hall. So please check the PSU Athletics website for the FAQs, and we will answer all your questions. The first thing I want to talk about is how important it is for our student athletes to come back and follow what's being asked from the institution. Okay, the student athletes are real leaders on campus, and we're going to have to adhere to all of the institutional rules in order to keep everybody safe. I personally have heard chats and things going around that students want to come back to party, and that's not going to fly. All right, this year, everybody has experienced a really tough time for sure during all of this, and things are going to be different. So, you know, the staff and faculty population is largely over the age of 55, and including myself, 60. So there's a huge responsibility for our students to follow the protocols for everybody's health and safety. So I really want to reiterate that, okay? This is really important. The university has sent all students info on the testing procedures. So please refer back to those documents that have been put out. And if you do have questions for that, those will be sent to the Vice President, Marlon Collingwood. All right. Okay, so we're gonna start off. Right now, despite what the media reported, sports are not fully canceled. The LEC has not fully canceled. They have canceled the conference season, but they are allowing, the presidents voted unanimously to allow each institution to make their own choices. So we're going to start working right away on getting some games in. And again, it's not going to look like it usually does, but we do want to do our best to try and have some non-conference games. At these games, the LEC has decided that there will be no fans, including family, no spectators allowed until further notice. I'm sure you've all heard also the MASCAC suspended fall football. So what we're going to do is we're not bringing in everybody for preseason this year. everybody is going to come in with the rest of the student body, and you'll hear from Res Life about your move-in date. We're going to be on campus for 2 weeks before we start anything. But once we do start practice and workout, strength and conditioning, we're going to start probably the earliest September 7th. And so during the fall for football, that will look like a spring season normally would, because the MASCAC is working on a 5-game spring season. And so that would be fantastic. So we're still working on that with the MASCAC and the MASCAC presidents. So as far as the LEC decision about fall sports, so field hockey, women's soccer, men's soccer, tennis, volleyball, and cross country, those are the sports that are included in the LEC. They've postponed the fall sports, as I said. There will be no preseason for those sports as well. And again, those students will get a move-in date from Res Life and move in with the rest of the student body. I know we already had a question about some students who had purchased plane tickets from a distance, and if that includes you, then you will need to contact Res Life directly about that. I know that everybody will work with you. Let's see. So again, we do have the green light to try and have some competition. We're exploring options now with other New Hampshire schools and other LEC schools that meet the testing protocols that will be satisfactory to us as well, and to those schools as well. With the LEC fall sports, the earliest we will start also is September 7th. And again, if and when we have games this fall, no fans will be allowed. So this will allow us to keep everybody safe and being able to continue to play. The LEC tennis, the championships in tennis have always been in the spring for tennis. So the LEC has already decided to have a spring season. So that's going to happen. They will still be allowed to practice this fall. As far as locker rooms, right now we're trying to keep the buildings with as little traffic in them as possible, and we are going to have flow patterns in the buildings. The locker rooms are not going to be a place for hanging out. The fall teams will, once we start, will probably be able to keep their things in the locker room, but it's an in and out sort of situation. We are going to have porta potties on the fields for practices. The LEC has talked about having some games in the spring for fall teams, but that hasn't materialized into anything set yet. So, you know, we need to remember that our spring teams lost their whole season last spring. And so it's really important that we want everybody to play, of course, but we wouldn't want them hopefully to lose two seasons in a row. Right at this time, I'm going to turn things over to Courtney Auclair to talk about NCAA decisions and eligibility and so on.
Thank you, Kim. Hi, everybody. So the one thing that I did want to discuss with you all today is decisions that have come down from the NCAA. So as Kim has said, just to repeat what Kim said, that yes, the conference schedules for fall teams were canceled, but yet we might have some small games, a small amount of games this year. And if we do, I just wanted to let you all know what the NCAA has come down with. They said that some of their rulings that they've come down with this summer have been to give us flexibility during this time of the current pandemic that we're in. The NCAA has issued a blanket waiver that says if a team competes in less than 50% of the max games allowed in a season, the student athletes will not be charged a year of eligibility. So we, PSU Athletics, has decided to exercise this waiver for our fall teams. If we have the opportunity to get some competition either this fall or this spring for our current fall teams. We are going to stay under the 50% mark to save our fall student athletes a year of eligibility. This waiver could also be extended to the winter teams and spring teams as well, but currently we have not decided that that is necessary, and we will keep that and monitor that situation as it unfolds. So again, I just want to repeat, we're excited to have you fall student athletes back. Even if we do get some competition, whether it's in the fall or the spring, we will not be charging the fall student athletes with a year of eligibility. I wanted to remind student athletes that if they choose to come back an extra semester, so say you're a senior right now, or even if you're a freshman right now, and you want to use this fall season at the end of your college career, you can do so. And by doing that, I wanted to remind you all that you could use your last year of eligibility in the fall as a part-time student athlete. So this is good news that you still be able to play 4 full years of your sport and still possibly just be taking that one class in that final semester and use this year of eligibility. So this is still a great way for our first years and everyone to kind of come in, keep practicing, stay with their team, but even though we're not going to get a robust competition season. Right now, the NCAA is on the table for the NCAA right now are the fall championships. They have not been canceled yet, but we foresee that happening in the near future. So be on the lookout for that information from the NCAA as well. I am happy to chat with any student or their family about eligibility and what this looks like for them on a one-on-one basis. Please use my email address. It's on the Plymouth State website. I'm happy to walk through the situation and make sure that everyone's understanding, but I just want you all to know that we are keeping our eye out and making sure we are doing what's best for our student athletes at the moment. Right now, I'm going to pass it over to Lauren Levine to talk about what is going on with our winter sports.
Hello, everyone. As Kim talked about, and Courtney, as we phase in our fall and our spring teams during those non-traditional and traditional segments, the winter teams, it's important for everyone to understand that there will be no captain's practices. So no pickup, there'll be no practice will not be allowed in any of the PSU athletic facilities right now, the rink, Allwell, pool, PE center, etc. We need to wait as we work in our fall and our spring teams. We are working right now with JT, who's our director of strength and conditioning, about potential workout times for the winter teams and some different venues. During this time, obviously, social distancing is key. So Kim, our director of athletics, and JT are working right now looking at some other venues and some other options for our winter teams to be able to have those sanctioned workouts with JT. Dates that winter teams can start official practices. Right now, we're hoping in October. And again, as we move forward with the fall teams, we'll have a better idea on the firm date for all of those. And we will be working closely. Courtney will be working closely with all the winter teams to make sure everyone has that. So again, as this is a continuing moving target, stay tuned. We'll get you all that information. Right now, the LEC has said no conference competition for basketball until after January 1. And right now, we're going to try to play some non-conference games for men's and women's basketball before then. And again, we're working with other schools. And the biggest thing is to make sure that they have the testing protocols that match up with our testing protocols so we can create a safe environment for our student athletes to compete. The NEHC women's hockey has also said the same thing, no conference games until January, and the same thing possible to pick up some non-conference games in the time frame leading up to that. But again, we're still working on that. The MASCAC, our men's hockey conference, has yet to make a decision, but we expect that'll be coming out soon, and probably would be surprised if it aligns closely with the NEHC, what the women's hockey conference is saying right now. So someone had asked in the chat, so for now, in the foreseeable future, there'll be no fans, family spectators will be allowed at any of our winter games. And again, that could change as we move through this, but right now there are no fans allowed. But the good news is, as always, we have the best broadcasting team in Division III. So whatever will be home, Dan and Chris will be doing a great job of broadcasting that for all of our friends and families far and wide. So like right now, I'm going to pass it over to Chris Kilmer, and he's going to talk about spring sports.
Thanks, Lauren. So for returning athletes, you understand that in the spring sports typically have what we refer to as their non-traditional season, NTS or fall ball, that takes place in the fall semester. We expect to still hold a non-traditional or NTS for spring sports in this fall. We're trying to make it as similar as possible to years past, although there have been a few modifications that I'm going to talk about with you guys right now. The first is that we are not going to hold any spring sport fall ball practices until at least September 14th. The idea is we want to give everybody 2 weeks to get on campus and get acclimated, and then also give a full week of fall sports practice under our belt before we start opening up the facilities for NTS practices for spring sports. In that period of time between when students get back on campus and the start of fall ball, we are allowing spring sports coaches to meet with their student athletes one-on-one as a way to check in on their return to campus, make sure everybody's adjusting okay, the transition's going well, and to discuss academics as needed. When NTS practices do begin, again, around September 14th, there are a couple modifications like I mentioned. The first is we're asking athletes to report directly to their practice areas, and your coaches will let you know where those are. There will not be locker room access for spring sports athletes during the fall semester. So you should plan to arrive dressed to play and ready to go. We will have porta potties at every outdoor location where practices would be held, and that's an attempt to help further limit unnecessary traffic through the athletics facilities. The other bigger modification for fall ball this year is that we will not be holding any outside competition, meaning no scrimmages or play dates like we've had in the past. Obviously, inter-team scrimmages are certainly still okay. As of right now, our hope is that we'll have a fairly normal spring season. Of course, that's totally dependent on where the virus is at that time. And we have not made any determinations on what spring break trips might look like for spring sports yet. Obviously, we need to know what the coronavirus looks like nationally before we can make those decisions. So we'll be talking with your coaches as we get closer to have a better picture of where things are. I'm going to turn things over to Mark Legacy now, who's going to talk about what your responsibilities are in terms of athletic training.
And I'm sure this is where a lot of the questions will start popping up on the Q&A. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We have 2 additional AT staff members, Sam and Eric, to help answer any questions regarding medical paperwork, health insurance, or the general operation of our AT clinics during this interesting and challenging time. I'm going to ask OC to share a screen. We are currently accepting medical paperwork from our fall and spring student athletes. You can access our online procedure through the Plymouth State Athletics website, which is where we are right now. Click on Inside Athletics and scroll down to Athletic Training. Once there, on the right side, you'll see Student Athlete Info. Click on that. And then if you are a new or transfer, so if you're an incoming first year or transfer student, you're going to click on the registration for new student athletes. If you are a returning student athlete, you'll click on the registration for that one. Take your time and then just follow the instructions, and it's pretty self-explanatory. We have Sam here with us, who's kind of the guru with this system. So, please feel free to forward him any questions and he'll be happy to answer them. All first year and transfer students will need to have a physical within 6 months of participation. Football student athletes will also need to obtain an annual physical within 6 months of participation. This means a physical is required for each year you participate. All other sports will only need their initial physical. Entering your junior year, for those that are not participating in football, individuals will be required to receive a medical clearance from PSU Health Services at no charge. Let's see here. We have 3 AT clinics at PSU. The PE Center, Allwell North, and Ice Arena all house an AT clinic. The AT clinic in the Ice Arena will not be available until the community and Spear Memorial Hospital discontinue the use of the Ice Arena as an overflow for potential COVID patients. We are looking at a mid to late September date for that AT clinic to be online. The athletic training staff will have all 3 AT clinics open throughout the day with the hope of decreasing the flow of traffic in the main PE Center facility. Treatment and rehab will take place at these facilities by appointment only between the hours of 10 and 2. Before being allowed in the AT clinic, a temperature and COVID symptom checklist will be given to the student athlete. Any indication that a potential symptom is present, the student athlete will be asked to return to their room and make an appointment with PSU Health Service for further evaluation and possible testing. Prior to practice, there will be no gathering or use of hot packs in the AT clinics. Ice bags will be made and handed out by AT personnel only. Until further notice, student athletes are no longer allowed to make their own ice bags. As much as we can, taping will take place at the teams' practice venues. There will be some taping in the AT clinics, but again, we are trying to decrease the flow of traffic in our settings. Masks must be worn by any individual looking to enter our medical facilities. Markers will be laid down, similar to what you see at the grocery store, in all of our clinics to encourage physical distancing. Thorough cleaning will take place between each treatment, taping, and rehab session. We ask that you bring several masks and water bottles with you to campus. Since we do not have enough water bottles for each student athlete to have their own, and we do not want to risk contamination by sharing other water bottles, AT will not be using our water bottles. AT will provide water stations complete with hand sanitizer. Prior to refilling your bottle, you will use the hand sanitizer, fill your bottle, and use the hand sanitizer again. Should a away contest occur this fall, temperatures will be taken and COVID symptom checklist completed before boarding the bus. The student athlete will take their form with them to the host institution and provide documentation to their personnel should it be asked for. Anyone with a fever will be told to remain back. The university plans to do additional testing for student athletes prior to games, but that will be coming down from the Health and Safety Committee. We realize some of our actions may be an overreach, and some may feel we are not doing enough. We do not pretend to have all the answers, and will continue to adjust our procedures accordingly, guided by evidence-based research to provide a safe return to sport. We ask you, our student athletes, to adhere to our policies to minimize the risk of contracting the COVID virus. Again, thank you all for attending this town hall, and we look forward to answer any of your questions or concerns you may have. Now I'm going to turn it over to OC, and she's going to go over some compliance.
Great, thank you, Mark. So I just wanted to let everyone know that even though with the uncertainty of sport and competition this fall, we are still requiring all forms be filled out. So that's both the medical forms that Mark was just speaking of, as well as the compliance forms that come from PSU and the NCAA. Any day now, I'm expecting the NCAA to release their new compliance form from this upcoming year. Once they do, I will be sending an email to each one of the student athletes to their PSU email accounts. In that email, I will have the link to all of the compliance forms, and they will all be completed online. And then I will also follow up with a link to the paperwork that Mark was just talking about as a secondary way of getting that information if you need it. If you have any questions on that paperwork, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Sam about the medical paperwork. But again, both the compliance paperwork and the medical paperwork will all need to be completed in order to participate this fall. So be on the lookout in your Plymouth State email accounts for that email from me. I'm hoping within the next week, the NCAA will be releasing it. As Division I was released yesterday, Division II is released today. So I'm hopeful that that means ours will be coming down any day now. So please stay tuned on that, and please get that paperwork done, because that's one less thing that we need to worry about when you all arrive here on campus. Turning it over now to Chris Kilmer, Athletics Communications Updates. Chris?
Thanks, OC. And I was just answering a question that actually the first thing on my list here. Our goal is to try to make this fall as normal as possible for all of you, understanding that it's not going to be a regular fall season. As no spectators are going to be allowed at any contest, we absolutely intend on broadcasting every home game we have this fall. Depending on the situation, we may even broadcast some inter-team scrimmages just so parents can, and families and friends can be able to watch our fine athletes compete. We do intend to post official team rosters online with the NCAA like usual. We plan on taking roster headshots and sports marketing photos, which some of you also know as sportraits, just like we have in the past, with some slight adjustments. For example, we are not going to have an entire team report for pictures at the same time. We might need to split up into subgroups based on the university's recommendations for group sizes. At this time, in terms of team photos, we're considering possibly moving all team photos into the spring semester, but we are still discussing that. And just a side note, as the MassCAC and LEC have suspended conference play for the fall, those leagues will not be putting out their usual weekly conference awards that we typically see. We are considering putting out our own athletes of the week, if you will, just at Plymouth State, assuming we are able to get some competition in. And to wrap up our part of the presentation with some very exciting and good news, I'm going to turn it back over to AD Kim Bounds. Kim, you're muted. Kim, you are.
Got it. I'll start over. Bearer of good news. There's one thing I want to say. You know, there are a lot of decisions to be made, of course. And we know, being all of us having been athletes ourselves, and this is what's most important to us in life, we know how tough this is, but I really hope that you keep reminding yourself that you are here to get your degree. And that's really important. Okay. So it's, you know, Courtney has given you a lot of information about if you did want to not use the semester, come back, you know, the waiver the NCAA is giving, all those things. And that's fantastic. But it really is important that you're really thinking about the degree that you're getting. And so I just wanted to say that. But the really good news is on Monday, the site work will be starting for the turf field. So Clark Company is the company who's doing the turf field. You should look them up online. Some of the spaces that they've done, they're unbelievable company. And the timeline for that is that it will be done prior to the completion of the fall semester. So before the snow flies. And so this could be really fantastic. This will be really fantastic for our outdoor teams in the spring to have this field. So our future is bright for sure. And we're really excited about that. So I think what we're going to do now is Lauren is going to take over. If we've been answering questions all along here in the Q&A, I kept saying chat room and it's the Q&A. So sorry about that, but I've answered a ton of questions. I think we've answered 26 questions already. So Lauren is going to take some questions live here, I believe. So Lauren?
So we do have a question here. It says, as a returning athlete, we had to go to the third choice ATS medical registration last week to access the forms. When we clicked on the returning athlete link, a different college appeared on top of the page, just so people were having a hard time accessing the correct page. So I guess that question, but just to make sure our athletic training staff is aware of that. And it looks like we have another person's having, it's hard to get back in the athletic portal to make sure everything was uploaded correctly. And actually we can't. Will we be contacted by someone if something is missing? I'm gonna throw that to Courtney.
Actually, I'm going to toss that to Sam. I accidentally hit, I would like to answer that live, but that is an athletic training question. So Sam Adams, please take it away for those two questions.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, someone will definitely be in contact. The AT staff speaks with their coaches pretty regularly about this. So you'll either hear from us or you'll hear from the coach whether you're missing something. Typically, if you don't hear anything at all, it means you're good. In terms of getting back in, being the administrator on the system, I have access to to be able to get back on. So if you have a question in terms of that, shoot me an email. My email's on the website. But just keep in mind that you'll need that athlete ID and password for 4 years. So make sure you write it down. Make sure you remember it because you'll need it for the future.
We have another question, Kim, and I know you and Coach Bergeron were talking about this yesterday. Any specific news on wrestling right now?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of talk by a lot of D3 schools on NAD3, and so I've been hearing from the other ADs. So we're going to treat this just like it's a winter sport, right? So nothing will happen with winter sports inside until winter sports can start, and then we will be easing into that, seeing, what the new protocols are for that type of thing. Most schools are doing just that. Some schools are definitely not starting anything until after January, but I would like us to start where they'll be able to work out once the official winter sports, always the winter sports date start is in October. Okay, that's always. So what happens though, of course, is our student athletes, as anxious and into it as they are, which is fantastic, usually come down piling in groups and do their own thing. And that's where in Division 3, the coaches aren't allowed to be involved in that. So what we're simply saying is we're planning on starting winter sports when they're supposed to start, but the student athletes themselves are not going to be able to just get together and do their thing. So that's where we are right now with this. Okay, so that everybody understands, we're not right now, nothing is changing for winter sports except that we don't want the athletes just getting together on their own in the facility. So that's where we are. And someone had asked about the ice arena. I answered that question. The ice arena is supposed to, what we know right now is ice is supposed to go in to be in October, right around when ice hockey is supposed to officially start. So nothing's being missed there. What we don't want to see is all these practices going on with just the students themselves, where they go off campus and then they come back on campus and they've left that bubble, and then they're coming back into the community. And so that's what's really important to understand. So right now, winter sports is on as usual, except the LEC for basketball made the decision already to not start anything before January, but hopefully we'll be able to start with when winter sports are supposed to start. But we're talking mostly about the students themselves getting together. So that's where we are with that. So I hope that makes sense. If not, feel free to email me or call me.
Mark, I have a question for you guys. Does PSU have a specific sport physical form that needs to be filled out by the doctor?
Sorry, I was actually just typing the answer out for them.
Oh,
we do have a form that can be used. However, if your physician wants to use their own form, that's perfectly fine, as long as it has the data physical on it, that you are clear to participate, and has the physician's signature on it.
Thank you, Mark. Courtney, we have a question for you. Do sophomores and juniors get a season of eligibility as well?
Yes, thanks, Lauren. Yes, they do. Every fall student athlete for this fall will get an extra year of eligibility. It doesn't matter if you're a first year, second year, third year, fourth year, you will get an extra year of eligibility. You will not be charged a year of eligibility. So that is just currently for our fall student athletes, as we are exercising that blanket waiver from the NCAA. Again, that is an option for fall and spring, but we're staying hopeful that we can get those full seasons in. If we can't and the pandemic still continues, then we will definitely exercise those rights too, because if you're not going to get in a full season, we will make sure that we protect your eligibility. So yes, it doesn't matter what year you are, you will be given this year back if you are a fall student athlete at the moment. Even if we play some competitions, we were going to keep you under the number of competitions that the NCAA is allowing us to get that waiver. So fall student athletes, you will get this year back.
Courtney, I have another question for you, and I know this is something we can't quite nail down, but basically all winter sports competitions will start in January to March since they are rescheduled. I don't know if you want to kind of think we're still kind of a moving target on that, if you want to talk a little bit more.
Sure. I think Kim sort of touched on it in her when she just spoke. So I'll sort of repeat what Kim just said. Currently, right now, the only winter sports that have had anything said about them is women's ice hockey and men's and women's basketball. And that was from their conferences. Their conferences said that no conference competition will start until January. However, we are currently exploring the options and opportunities of potentially playing close regional teams in non-conference competition in November and possibly December, if that's a possibility. So we are still exploring that. If it doesn't become a possibility, we will then try to get as much of our season in January, February. We'll see how that unfolds. But as of right now, we are still hoping that we can do some non-conference games in all of those sports. We are working on that right now. Kim is diligently every day working with ADs from our local area to kind of stay within our bubble to see if that can happen. So more to come on that for winter sports. It hasn't been completely shut down until January yet. As soon as we know something definitive, we will send out a press release or update our website on that information so everyone knows.
Kim, because you're the expert and we haven't talked much about it, we have a question about alpine skiing, what that start date and that season might look like. I think you're on mute.
What a rookie. So skiing, being a winter sport, would start October 15th generally, right? And that's when we would do dry land, etc. So it will hopefully still start in October when teams will get some dry land training in. And then we are not sure, there probably won't be a camp away like out west like normal over Thanksgiving, but coach is prepared to get training here. And then the season should go as normal. So that's what we're really hoping for all winter sports, that, you know, once January hits and hopefully this virus is under control, that we can start and have a typical normal season, because the EISA, the NCAA skiing, their first competition isn't till second week of January or something. So hopefully we'll be good for that. And again, it's up to all of us to make this happen. It really is. Each one of us needs to be smart and do what we need to do to contain this, not be running off every weekend, not partying, not, you know, just, we got to lay low here and let this thing be done.
Kim, I have another question for you. I talked about it briefly about strength and conditioning. How will the weight room be handled as far as volume of athletes in there at one time? And also, what's the plan for keeping it clean?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So we are not planning on using the Velas Performance Center, our little teeny weight room, because if we did, we'd probably be able to put about 5 people in there. I was on the phone yesterday with our Director of Safety, Health and Safety, and also every day speaking with JT, our strength and conditioning coach. JT is listening on this call right now. If you don't know JT, John Thomas, he is a, and I say this, one of the top strength coaches in the United States, spent many years as the head football strength coach with Penn State, and then Georgia and University of Miami. He and I have been talking a lot. We are working to get the strength and conditioning equipment moved up to the old field house during COVID time. And we're going to be spacing that out appropriately. We, like every D1 school in the country, be wearing masks. And so you want to get something that fits comfortably and that you can breathe through. And we will have disinfecting equipment after any group comes in. We don't know the number they're going to allow us yet It's going to be based on the square footage we have, but we definitely are going to make this happen because this is really important for our student athletes.
We have another question probably for Kim and Courtney. Can you discuss the break that PSU is taking after Thanksgiving and what PSU winter sports will look like when coming back to campus for what we usually call winterim?
I like that, after Turkey Day. Yeah, so right now, you know, as everybody knows, we're going to be ending, and then exams and so on are going to be online. And so during that time, that would be the time, like I said, that the ski team, for example, would go away, and there would be some basketball and hockey games. But what we're going to be doing is coming back when we're supposed to, and when winter sports would normally come back. And then some of those games will be rescheduled that were supposed to be, you know, at that time. So hopefully we get full winter sports schedules in. And if I'm missing anything, Courtney? Nope, that's good. Okay, so that's how it'll work.
We have a good question here. Any of you guys chime in. Can you address your thoughts for those student athletes who are dual athletes and could be caught between two coaches in 2 seasons, especially if some of the fall teams are competing in the spring? How will this be handled for those athletes? Flexibility, student athlete must choose one sport. I guess, again, this is all unprecedented, so I'm not quite sure how either Kim or OC could answer that. I guess we can just hope for the best.
Yeah, I think that is going to be on a person-by-person basis. We will absolutely work with the student athlete and the coaches and try and do whatever is best. We don't really know. I don't have the perfect answer, but we certainly will work. I've answered a few of those questions and said, we're absolutely going to try to make it work for our student athlete in the best way possible.
And just the one thing that I would add to that is that if you're worried about you're playing a spring sport and a fall sport and fall might be moved to the spring, I would just remind you that at this point, fall is going to be we're going to keep you at a very minimum amount of games so that we can get you that waiver. So I would probably say you might want to consider leaning to the spring sport just because there as of right now, there's still playoffs and championships involved. So that isn't, we're still at this point, that would be an actual season, whereas
I think we lost you, Courtney. If you could repeat that again, your sound cut out.
Sorry, it says my internet is unstable. Is this okay right now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I'll just try to wrap this up quickly because I'm not sure where I got lost. But the spring seasons, as of right now, are still considered whole seasons, and there will be championships and playoffs. So I might consider leaning that way just because as a fall, we're going to play a very minimal schedule if we can. If possible, we might not even be able to get that because we are going to keep that low schedule because we're going to be getting you that waiver of a year of extra eligibility or get this year of eligibility back. So just as a reminder, spring might have a full actual season.
Okay, we have another tough one here. What happens if somebody at a fall sports team tests positive for COVID? Will all the players and coaches have to quarantine? I know it's something we're still working on. Kim, Courtney, Mark.
We are still working on that. The student, my latest understanding is the student athlete will be quarantined. Teammates, coaches, staff, anybody affiliated with that team will be tested. And again, it's constantly changing, but my understanding is that the team would have to take a break until those tests come back.
Have another one. Will international students participating in winter sports need to quarantine for 2 weeks after Christmas break? And will this be considered in scheduling? I know we're still working. I mean, again, we don't know what we don't know yet for winter teams. And I know, Courtney or Kim, you can chime in. I know we're working closely with Barbara Lopez-Mayu and the GEO office, along with Marlon Collingwood and Dr. Burke. So I think right now, as it stands on July 30th, I think it's hard for us to predict what's going to happen then. But again, as always, we will continue to keep all the coaches and the student athletes abreast as what's happening and what policies. So we're going to be working hard to make sure when our student athletes leave for that break time that they have everything they need to know prior to coming back to campus. So we will do our best. If you guys
Thank you,
are
Lauren.
adding those.
That was a good answer. Yeah, I don't think we can know at this time, but good question also. Something it's on our radar for sure.
Another one, will testing take place to coaches and the athletes?
So the health and safety coordinator and our VP Marlon Collingwood have to get that information to me by Tuesday at noon, because the Little East Conference wants our protocols. So what's happening, as you know, you have to have a test before you come to school. They'll be testing once they're at school. And then if we're playing, supposedly we're going to test 2 to 3 days prior to playing. So that's where it is right now, but they're getting me the exactly what's happening by Tuesday. So we will certainly let everybody know.
So we have a question here. I'm going to read it aloud, but I think it's definitely something that we're going to have to handle with the powers that be on campus. If an athlete had to quarantine, where on campus would this happen, and how will they get meals, et cetera? I know that's something that our campus safety committee and student life and everyone is working on. So I don't think we should answer. I think that's something we should pass forward and make sure that all of you have that answer. If Kim and Courtney want to add anything else, but that's something that the university as a whole is working on and making sure that those places are in place and standard for all of our student athletes, all students.
Yeah, and I think once, like Kim said, once we get some of that information from campus, we will continually update an FAQ, and we'll keep these questions and we'll continually update them, and we'll be posting that on our Plymouth State website, the athletic website. So please check that out in the next day or two. We're going to have all these answers back up there again as soon as we can get them through. Actually, give us the weekend so we can make sure we get them all cleaned up and answered. And we'll also get the stuff from on campus as well. And as we find out more, we will continually update the frequently asked questions as well. And Chris said that we could host that on the Plymouth State Athletics website. So please be checking there for all these questions and updates as they come available to us.
We have another question, and Chris kind of touched on it. Will fall sports still be able to practice 6 days a week? And that's something that we all met with all of our coaching staff earlier this week about how the practice schedule is going to look. And I think, as Chris said it best, it's certainly not going to be a normal fall schedule. So Courtney and everyone in our department were working hard to put together a practice schedule. Again, it's going to look very different because of, COVID constraints, et cetera. So it could be 6 days a week. We don't know right now, as we try to make space for everyone and make it the safest environment that we can.
Yep, and just to add to that, Lauren, I think that once we get further into these decisions that were just made this past week, so we're still very new in finding out this information. As we find out if we're going to have competition this fall and when that competition will be, I think we will then sort out the practices from there. And I think also too, as we're finding out now that spring tennis is going to happen, we also found out that it looks like spring football is going to happen. So since those things are going to happen, we'll probably have less of a robust fall for those teams and have a little bit more of a robust spring for those teams. So I think that information is going to start coming out from coaches as we find out what and if competitions are going to be available and if spring's a possibility.
We had a question in terms of, will we have another Zoom meeting regarding winter teams? I'm sorry, guys, we're probably going to have another Zoom town hall for all of our families and student athletes. Again, as we get more information, we'll make sure that all of you have the correct information. So again, as we get answers, we will get together and make sure all of you have the right answers as well. We have a question here. Will teams be coordinating meal schedules as well, where the dining hall numbers are limited? Again, without a preseason, so it's a little bit different. Our teams won't be dining together, but again, something the people up on campus are working on the dining hall, setting up different dining areas. I drove by campus today. I know they've created some more outdoor spaces so that our students are spread out more. So it's nothing that the coaches in the athletic department would deal with. That would be up on campus dealing with res life and the dining hall. So the university is working hard towards creating more of those spaces so the student athletes can dine, all of our students can dine in their social distancing expectations. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on all these. If anyone sees any, let me know.
Yeah, there's one here that says, why aren't all teams able to pursue a spring schedule and not just football? Those are different conferences. So the MASCAC football conference has, doing what they're doing. Women's ice hockey is the NEHC, that conference. Men's ice hockey is the MASCAC conference. Almost all of our other sports are LEC, Little East Conference. Wrestling is Ncaa, a different conference. Skiing is EISA, a different conference. So different conferences are making different rules. It's not just Plymouth State. I have been in all of the athletic directors meetings. I have pushed for spring sports for everybody. A lot of athletic directors are not for that because they don't have the space to do that. They don't have the staffing to do that. And as I said at the beginning, we need to remember spring sports didn't have a season last year. So spring sports needs to be a priority for this year. And I know that doesn't include football, but as I said, in terms of the LEC. So I'm still fighting for as much as we can get. And that's all I can tell you, but it's not just up to us.
Mark, this is something we talked about a lot, and I'll let Mark handle this one because we talked about this a lot this summer. If teams are allowed to travel and play local non-conference games, will there be any restrictions with regards to how many people can travel on the bus at one time? That's something we talked a lot about this summer.
The travel roster would probably remain the same. The only thing that would be different, and we looked into, so if football was going to have a season in the fall, we were going to reserve an extra bus for them, just because they have basically 4 people per aisle or per seat, and it's tough to keep the physical distancing. So we're just trying to encourage the social distancing as much as we can. With the roster sizes of the other teams, they can all fit adequately on a bus. I contacted the bus company. The only seats that aren't available are the 2 rows closest to the bus driver. But masks would be required for all to be on the bus because you're not going to be able to physical distance. Hope that answered the question.
And also to add to that, remember what we're trying to do is keep our student athletes in families, basically, right? So, and that's why I keep saying this is so important that everybody follows the protocols so that we can do this kind of stuff. If people start going rogue and doing whatever they want to do and, we can't control this thing, then we're in big trouble. So it's really important so if they're practicing together, they're together, then they get on the bus together, that should be fine.
So we have the last question here, and I think this is also somewhat of a thing that's going to change, but what does the winter break timeframe look like now? I don't know if Courtney wants to talk about that. I guess that would be our interim Thanksgiving break. And again, that's something we're still not quite sure of, but if both Courtney or Kim want to chime in some more.
Sure, I'll give it a shot. And then Kim, if I miss anything, Kim, step in and let me know. As of right now, everyone knows that classes are going to be ending on campus around Thanksgiving, and you'll be home then from Thanksgiving until January. We are exploring what the 2 weeks after Thanksgiving would look like, if there's even possibility for competition that week. As of right now, we have not made a decision on the 2 weeks following Thanksgiving, so that is still up in the air, and that's going to depend on what schedules are available, what games are non-conference games are available, and then if those non-conference games that are available, if they meet our testing requirements, if those are even an option for us to compete during those 2 weeks. So the 2 weeks in between Thanksgiving and Christmas are still up in the air, still be determined, and as we find out more, we will let you know. But as of right now, we are currently assuming that we can bring you back January 1st and so on in Wintram like we normally do. So that is the plan as of right now. The only thing that's up in the air right now is whether or not we will utilize the 2 weeks after Thanksgiving.
Sorry. Has there been any thought to having teams housed together as much as possible? I guess, I mean, I get asked that often in open house. I think that's something, I mean, as a Division III school, we don't control where our student athletes live. I know in a perfect world, we can say this is where this team lives, this is where that team lives, but I think in our kind of campus community, we don't really have those. I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that.
No, I answered it. I typed as well. And yeah, I said it's a great question. We would absolutely love to have that, but that isn't, that's really a question for Res Life. Because there are so many groups, right? There's the music groups and there's the dance groups and there's the, and not everybody lives on campus. And yeah, I think it would be wonderful, but that's not up to us.
So those are all the questions, Kim, Courtney, and team.
That's great. Again, I think this was fantastic. This was just the first opportunity for us to get together as a department and share what we know and what we know of as today. We understand that this is a frustrating time because there's so many moving pieces to what's happening. And as we learn more, we are going to share that information and get that information out to you. Again, I encourage you next week to start checking our webpage for the frequently asked questions. And like Lauren said, hopefully as we get closer to winter decisions, we can have another town hall to update you. But please, we are an open door policy, you know, for our student athletes and the families. If you have questions about anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. We want to do everything we can to make this a healthy, smooth, safe transition to the fall. We look forward to seeing everybody back. And again, we know this is unprecedented times right now, but we're doing everything we can to be safe and keep things moving forward. So stay tuned for more. And Kim, anything else to add before we sign off?
I just want to thank everybody for being a part of this. Thanks to our panel here. And this is so tough for everybody. And we're thinking about all of you, but we're here and we're going to keep plugging along and fighting for you guys. So thanks and bye-bye.